guys, it's a Wednesday night, you want something quick, but you want something fancy for a change. Well, you want fancy? I'm gonna give you fancy. We're gonna do a classic restaurant dish that is outstanding. This is called Steak Diane. If you've never had it, it's a quick grilled thin steak, usually a loin or New York strip, and we make a really cool white mushroom cream gravy. Goes right over the top, super quick to come together, only a few ingredients, one or two you might have to go out and buy, but easy to do. So let's get going with that. One of the very cool things about Steak Diane is it's a flambe dish. If you don't know what that means, it basically means we get to set shit on fire. So while we are going to be setting a fire in your kitchen on purpose, we're going to do it the safe way. We're going to cover the safety protocol, and we're going to teach you the right way to do it so there's no danger. There's a few extra tools that we're going to need for the flambe portion of it. Let's cover those right now. Have one of these. You probably won't need it, but every kitchen should have one. Get one of these. Do not wear one of these. If you're not comfortable doing the flambe, you can certainly skip this step. Also, to get the flame, we are going to be using some brandy. You can use cognac, brandy, and again, so if you're not a drinker, if you're alcohol averse, we can just completely omit that step, and you'll end up with a creamy mushroom gravy. It'll just have a slightly different flavor, but it'll be still very, very good. So let's get started on that. All right, so what I have here, guys, are apparently the world's smallest strip steaks, but you want a thin cut, and this is the only time in the world that I'm going to tell you to go ahead and remove the fat. Now you can leave it if you want, and you know we're keto, so technically we're not supposed to be trimming the fat, but this is going to end up being covered in a lot of gravy, and if you're serving this to non-keto people especially, and this is a great meal to share with somebody who's not keto that you can both enjoy, it's nice to be able to just eat it without having to worry about fat to find. So these little pieces of fat here I'm okay with. So we'll just kind of trim this down. Try not to take any of the good meat. If there's a little fat on the edge, that's fine. And one tip is, this is a little bit, somebody did not such a good butchering job on these, is to put these in the freezer for 10 or 15 minutes to firm them up, and that makes that fat a lot easier to trim. So we're going to heat up some cast iron, throw a little bit of either some bacon fat or some olive oil in there or some coconut oil, and I'll meet you over at the stove. So I've broken up my trusty cast iron pan. You want to use a pan that's not non-stick if at all possible. Cast iron's perfect for this. So I have this preheating right now. If you don't have cast iron, a stainless steel pan would work great if you had one of these. And if you have to use a non-stick pan, use it. It's just we're going to be building a gravy off of the fond or the meat that sticks to the bottom of it. So it won't stick if it's non-stick. So one of these two pans is great. Non-stick if that's all you got. We're going to start with a little bit of bacon fat down in the bottom of the cast iron. We'll let that heat up just a bit. And just starting to see some wisps of smoke. So we're going to take our strip steak that we had trimmed earlier, season it with some salt. We're going to throw that into a pretty hot pan. Now once it's in there, you don't want to move it. Just let it sit there. This is a very, very thin steak, so this is only going to take 1 or 2 minutes. So it's been searing now for a couple minutes. We'll go ahead and give that a flip. And we don't necessarily need this cooked all the way through yet, guys, because we're going to return it to the sauce once the sauce has come together. So we'll just get a sear on both sides of this. And I'm kind of adjusting my heat to make sure that the pan stays hot. And then we'll build the sauce right here in the pan. Okay, so we got some nice browning on this steak now, so I'm going to go ahead and we'll pull this. hold this on this plate while we start the sauce. First thing we're going to do is we need a couple teaspoons of some chopped shallots. Hit that with a little bit of salt to help draw out their moisture. I'm going to turn the stove down to about medium-low. Just as the shallots get cooking, I'm going to go ahead and hit it with about 3 or 4 cremini mushrooms. Hey guys, what I did not say here is that white or button mushrooms are just fine here. Touch more salt for the mushrooms to give up their moisture. And again, cast iron holds the heat really well, so I turned it down to a medium-low right now. If I need to adjust it, I will. But this is going to take, 4 or 5 minutes for these mushrooms to brown, release their liquids, and be ready for the next step. See you back in a minute. As the mushrooms start to give off their moisture, go ahead and start scraping the bottom of the pan to be picking up any of the fond from the steak that we seared. And then they will carry that flavor onto the rest of the sauce for us. So these are about halfway to where I want them. So another 2-3 minutes, these should be browned, and we'll be ready for the next step. So the mushrooms are starting to take on some color. They've given up most of their liquid, as you can see. They've shrunk a bit. And so from here, we'll put in tablespoon and a half of butter. And a clove of garlic. The reason I didn't put the garlic in earlier is if garlic burns or cooks too far, it gets really bitter. So we'll just let that soften. You'll start smelling the garlic right away. Again, if you don't like garlic, leave it out. So we'll let that just continue to soften for a little bit. And that butter kind of takes on a nutty aroma. That's going to add a ton of flavor to this sauce here. So this will be more of a pan sauce, not so much a thick gravy, but it's going to be loaded with some good flavors. Alright, now we're going to take some Dijon mustard, and I'm going to put, tablespoon and a half. And then, about a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, or what's this here sauce, or the less appropriate, Worcestershire sauce. Get that mixed in. Boy, this is really starting to smell good now, guys. No, it doesn't look like much yet, but it's about to. Now, we're coming to the flambe part. So we're going to pour in, traditionally it would call for cognac. I don't have cognac. I have brandy, which is very, very similar. And this is also the step you can skip if you'd rather not do this part. So to do it safe, I have a gas stove here. I probably won't need that lighter I showed you earlier. But when I add the brandy, I'm going to turn off the flame, stand back, pour it in quickly. That's about 2 shots worth. And there's our flambe. So this is not a time where you want to be shaking the pan or doing anything silly. This will burn for 1 or 2 minutes. You can gently reach in and carefully mix that around. You see the alcohol is going to burn off very, very quickly. This is certainly an impress your friends moment. And so now you can see the flame's gone. I'm back on about medium-low heat. And I'm going to go with about a half a cup of heavy cream. And I might need a little more, but I'm starting with half a cup. We'll see how this comes together. I'll mix this all in. It's not me cooking if I don't completely mess up my stove doing it. So we'll bring this to a little simmer. For a little color and flavor, I'm going to throw in a teaspoon of some Italian parsley. That's the flat leaf variety. I'm going to check for salt. Oh boy, it's going to be good, guys. I'm going to go with a pinch of salt. And as this comes together, I'm going to add back our steak. Now I only cooked one steak here, but obviously there's plenty of sauce here to do 2 steaks. And so we'll coat the steak with the sauce. As the sauce continues to cook and the flavors come together, we'll finish off cooking the steak for us. And once or twice during cooking, you want to make sure you're turning the steak so it cooks evenly. And you can cook this to any doneness. Right now it's probably pretty rare to a medium rare right now. So it's about where I like it. And this, you can see that the sauce just naturally is thickening up. Okay, so let's go ahead and plate this up. Go ahead and put this on the plate with a little bit of our cauliflower mash. If you haven't seen that video, check it out. We're going to add a touch of the mushroom gravy over the steak and a touch for the cauliflower. We'll hit it with just a little bit of parsley for garnish. And here you go, guys, fancy on a Wednesday night. Let's taste it. All right, guys, so here it is. Yet another dish that John has not tried, but was nice enough to film me making for him. So, John, here's a fork.
I have tasted those.
Yes, you have.
I've had mushrooms before, and I've had steak. So that's a lie.
Try the steak, Diane. Tell me what you think.
And this is a strip steak?
Yes, this is a strip steak.
That's good.
Is that good?
That's wow.
Tender. That sauce just complements it just right, guys. It's a rich sauce. A little goes a long way.
Wow. I saw you put that mustard in there in the Worcestershire when you were cooking it in front of the camera. All those aromas came in. I was like, that too much. No.
Comes together.
No, it comes together.
Everything kind of mellows out. And
it blends. It's like, if you were to just give it to me, I didn't see you make it, I never would have guessed Worcestershire mustard. I never would have guessed that. I would have tasted something in there, maybe in the wine area, but...
Not brandy or cognac.
No.
Yeah. No, but it adds a really good depth of flavor to it, doesn't it?
Creamy foods like this.
Yeah, isn't that good? Yeah, and it's super rich, guys. So this is going to fill you up, and it's got a ton of fat in it, which is what we're after. And got a good cut of meat here. It was well marbled. So it's nice and tender.
This is your family beef, right?
This is family beef. This is from Ohio, yes. So pairs good with the cauliflower mash, or it's just fine on its own with a salad.
So that's a strip steak.
This is
I eat ribeyes all the time.
Right.
That is more tender than the ribeyes I get at the grocery store. More tender.
There's a reason I travel 2,500 miles to get my steaks. Well, I also enjoy seeing my family, so and they're nice enough to send me home with a nice care package. So
next year,
you're coming?
I want to.
Yeah, that'd be fun. We'll give you a tour of the packing house.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And see where your meat comes from.
Heck yeah.
So and take you a tour of the farms, and we'll go party up at the lake. Sound good?
Yeah.
Guys, here's your fancy for a Wednesday night. It comes together really, really quick. Few ingredients to have on hand. You may not have brandy or cognac. If it's not something you normally carry, you can, if you go to one of the Bevmos or one of those places, you can probably find the airplane bottles still. And just have 1 or 2 of those on hand. Or just buy a small 375 milliliter bottle. And once you have this, you're going to want to make it again. So brandy, it's liquor; it'll keep forever. So
It's like the little lady basket at the grocery store at AJ's.
I use those all the time.
Full of liquor.
Exactly.
I'll just have one of these. You know?
I'll have one of these and one of these. Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
All right, cool.
So yeah, here we got our steak Diane. This is a classic recipe. I think it's from the 40s or 50s, but it still holds up, guys. Give it a try. Yes.
Into it.
Huh?
I bumped into the handle.
Oh.
I was trying to do the what are that like?